Penny. This is the screening of my first film called What Were You Wearing? Thank you. The idea behind it was to trigger conversations concerning blaming rape victims about what they wear. You know, I'm just kind of shedding the light on the fact that it's not about what they were wearing, it's about the fact that someone felt like they had the right to violate a human without asking for consent. And so I thought that, you know, why don't I try using storytelling to try to trigger change in any little way that I can? And that's what I do. I love to tell stories. I like to just play around with little videos just to see how it would just find its way into the world and people can be impacted, I hope. So this is what I want to share with you. And after tonight, I will then release it to the wider world. And I'm hoping that you can help me push the message out as well. So we are going to kickstart with a very short video that coincidentally is titled after my film called What Were You Wearing? It was an exhibition in Brussels in 2018 where a group of people decided to showcase the outfits that were worn by rape victims when they were attacked. And I hope it will set the scene before we then go further into the evening. So please.
What were you doing? Are you sure you didn't do it at that time, Rookie? Are you even sure it was really a sight to behold? Everyone will know.
It's impossible to tell with people who are closest to them. And it's a scary thought. It's one that changes our perceptions and our, I think, interactions with people around us sometimes too. So beyond the victims of abuse, it also affects their own circle of friends and their circle of interaction because it introduces fear. And that fear holds the rest of us captive. So we are, I think, enjoying their pain. And the big lesson to draw from that is we should not then be quiet, because if we feel that pain and we keep silent in fear, then we give the perpetrators more power.
Another angle that gets to me is that is a law enforcement person and he's asking what we're doing. Like, how does that even make sense? These are the people that are supposed to be upholding the law. They're supposed to be protecting rape victims. And the question is, what were you wearing? Personally, I've been in a forum where we had a lot of law enforcement officers, and that was the mentality. I was appalled, to say the least. Some immigration officer was like, they will wear some things and they expect me not to. I'm like, are you serious? I'm like, even if a girl wears like a turtleneck, down, socks, everything, it's all in the mind. Somebody who wants to rape will rape. So it's not about what somebody's wearing. Like you said, what will a 6-month-old baby wearing Pampers and you have somebody looking and feeling some kind of attraction? That's madness. So it's like, I'm really proud of AJ. Very, very proud of you.
It's the whole compilation goes very well together. And I think what caught me most to the movie is at the end the alarm bell, because the point is, in someone's mind when it's being violated, the alarm never goes, right? Okay, but now on the conversation, I think the key focus that people forget is the narrative focuses on the victim, on blaming the victim. But what we're not talking about is how do we view sexuality? What is it that society doesn't give people a responsibility of self-control, right? Because I'll put it unique to things I've been reading. People say, oh, the devil was in me. Or there's so many scenarios you see where maybe a father has been raping their children and they say, oh, but I was lonely. So it's like, how do I say, it's like sexuality becomes a right. So whether it's right or wrong, someone feels entitled to take from a child, from a man, from a boy, from people that they can use and abuse. Let's just say, for example, be it Christian or Muslim, a lot of systematic rape is happening, but we're using the corridors of power and religion to hide it. Oh, it was the child's fault. What was she doing then? Oh, they are unholy. Why are you tempting him? So at the end of the day, all these narratives focus on the victim, but rather than the people. So
To be very honest, I already cried, and I don't know how I think I would cry even more when I start talking, but I'm just kindly ignore that. I'm basically passionate about issues that are about rape, sexual harassment, exploitation, and so on, because it's lived with us in Africa, in Nigeria, even Asia, India is suffering right now. So it kind of feels like the more populated the country, the more intense it gets with sexual harassment, male, female, babies, grandmothers, And then you wonder, okay, so what exactly is the drive? Why do you feel because I have the strength, because I am in a position to, I should do this and nothing will happen? It makes me angry, And because you're angry, it also then clouds your mind, and then you don't think straight. You then want to draw blood for blood, The last thing she said was blood out. I'm wearing clothes, it makes you angry. And that's how a lot of people, a lot of us who have experienced rape, that's how we feel. We feel anger, And then it clouds, like when there are people talking about it, when you're in a place where you can do something about it, then you go extreme, then they leave the issue and they start to address, you shouldn't have given him a life sentence, he shouldn't have been killed. They leave. And you're like, how does this happen? How do you raise a 6 months old? How do you do these things? So I'm a media professional. You get on social media and the conversation leaves what is important to what are you wearing?
Yes. I'll give an example of something that happened very recently. A schoolmate of mine had her help who was 14 years old. The girl was, according to her, she had sex with a neighbor. And I told her, I said, this girl is 14 years old. She's not even reached the age of consent. Because when the girl came back, she beat her up. I'm like, how? What were you thinking about? I said, you should be telling this girl it is not your fault. I said, she's 14. There's nothing you will tell me to say she actually went there willingly. I said, you're a woman, let's talk openly. I said, you know what sex is. Somebody has come and has touched her in places. And of course, she's human. She would have some kind of feelings. I said, so you should be teaching her that this is not your fault. This is his fault.
Because you can see the law enforcement guy. This is the law enforcement officer. He's asking her, what were you doing? That just tells you that even the people who are meant to protect you already have some. Without there's no. Yeah, if our law enforcement officer is the enforcement of the law. That's really.
On a broader scale, the thing is, I think there's even a study. There's a study, I can't remember about what university, but they had asked people if they would rape a person under certain conditions, and basically the conclusion at the end was that most people who were like, yeah, they would take advantage of someone. They were only going to do it if they were sure they were going to do it if they were sure they'll get away with it. So it's like you said about, so yeah, let's assume that someone is dressed in a manner that arouses someone. Fine, you're aroused. But does that mean you should act on it? I walk by stores every day and I see stuff that I want. I don't break in.
Yeah.
Right? You know, like you want it, it's fine. It's fine to want. But are you going to act on said want? So you now have, there are people, I don't break into stores because I don't want people to lose their stuff, but there are people who don't break into stores because they know they'll get caught.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with people who are rapists. They wouldn't rape someone if they didn't think they'll get away with it. Criminals don't steal, and this I mean it on a very general note because I do know that people that steal out of desperation, especially here in Nigeria, it happens a lot. But on a very general note, criminals don't steal just because they want something. They also steal because they are sure that they can get away with it. And when it comes to rape, I think it's here in Nigeria, it's extremely easy to get away with it. It's really not that big a deal.
In my home country, the UK, we count how many people are victims of rape each year. We don't count how many rapists there are. So that's a really subtle structural thing, but it says so much. And I guess also about one thing the spoken word really made me think about is kind of, and your comment as well on the impact on wider society and friends, and you know how this has a really individual impact, but also wider societal impact. If I think about the amount of time and advice I've been given about what to wear and how to behave, and if I think about how much energy of just keeping alert and keeping my eyes open, that's energy and alertness I haven't been investing in my career, in my family, in my relationships, in setting myself up for a good future. And so it's a wider systemic thing, I think, that can really bring a whole group of people down, even if not every single person is personally affected, even though so many are.
I think what I've just watched is a very powerful tool to use in this process of discussing about it. I'm very highly impressed to see young people debating, talking seriously about what is happening. I may disagree, maybe because of my generation gap, but I think what we're doing here is a very important question from the policeman. Because he knows if you go to England during the summer, in the high street, you see people who walking almost virtually naked. They just make sure they have something here, a bit there, and they leave half of this open. And there is no way a human being will pass and not look back, either in disdain or in admiration. You know, so what were you wearing? It's a very important question. You cannot wish it away because in the past, you see, go backwards and see how ladies dressed. Everywhere from neck to toe is covered. And there is no, you don't see any skin at all. You know, and this is the parents, that's why they get agitated when their children, you know. I mean, when one or two of my daughters dressed and they had this like that, you could see the long hair and so on. I couldn't say anything because she got the message anyway. Yeah, it's very important. So the fashion people, I was watching one of it a few days ago, and the justice is getting worse and worse. You know, there is no way a man sees a woman scantily dressed that he will not be provoked. Not to go. Undisciplined men, of course, you're watching the darkness, you see whether there is a gap. Somewhere in the corner you can, you know, but I think we must think seriously about what we wear. You go to church, sometimes girls come in with, as if it was a fashion parade. in the church. So the young people must think that what they wear is a trigger.
Even when they wear t-shirts, even when they wear t-shirts.
I'm just trying to say that what comes your way, it might provoke somebody.
What I understand is it's basically the same thing I'm saying, but not looking at the problem. Cult boys in Port Harcourt have picked a bunch of colors that the regular young man cannot wear. It's not that bad anymore, but back then it used to be really bad. They picked a ton of colors that the regular young man cannot wear. Why am I the one being policed when they are the ones that are doing wrong? Dressing the way somebody wants to dress isn't wrong. You might not, it might, and you said if you look into the past, but that's the selective past. We didn't start really covering up completely until European children. In my village, I'm an Okrika boy, in my village, apparently even till now, there's this coming of age ceremony that girls do. They go topless and walk around the village. As at 2 years ago, there was a video on social media where 2 young ladies were doing it. So the covering from top to bottom, it really is selective history. It's Europeans that came with that fashion sense. And speaking of fashion and how we dress, it has evolved over the years. There were times when men wouldn't wear regular trousers. Nigerian men, a lot of tribes, they would tie wrappers and go out, So fashion has evolved over the years and it has changed. So the problem, I understand the saying that all people should watch what they wear. It's like, I will try to keep my phone safe. But in all honesty, if I put my phone here and somebody takes it, I'm not really the one to blame. Somebody stole my phone. So even if someone dresses a certain way, it's not really the person's fault because someone chose to take advantage of them. And I think that's the real issue, the fact that we keep paying attention to the victim and we're not addressing the perpetrators. So if it's like with the NSAS process, what is wrong with me wearing dreadlocks? What is wrong with me having a big beard? Why is the police harassing me for using a nice phone? How is that my fault? But then you find our parents telling us that, oh, don't wear this kind of hairdo. SARS is outside. Don't wear that watch. SARS is outside.
Just to answer one of the points you raised now. I have a son like you. His mustache, this beard is. It was copied Ojukwu. And at the end, they ended up having more than Ojukwu. And why the mother has taught, I have taught. But we know we were getting nowhere. Why did we even caution him? Because he will be easily mistaken as one of the people from Union, And anything can happen. In the streets of London, you get the police always looking for black people who are dangerously dressed. So,
but that's profiling. That's profiling. That's why
if you don't say anything.
Okay, I want to make sure that we don't and then I want people to respond, different people to respond, and say Hakan was off. And then if she wants to say something, like you'll say something because we want to. So I know you have something to say.
So what you're wearing, like, I made news today, and then the woman was against it. She's like, if you carry news, how will people see you? You're going to look wayward, you're just 18 and stuff like that. But me, wearing news doesn't mean I'm wayward. I'm a harlot, I'm a promiscuous girl and stuff like that. Before I made my hair, I'm like, I want to make it good looking. And then when you go to court, what would the lawyer say? What would the judge say? I had a court case last week and I went for a pretrial, and then the lawyer is like, don't wear anything that will provoke the judge. Tie your hair, then don't carry bad. I'm like, but you're making me look what I'm not. I don't wear long things. Like, I have to wear a full gown and then tie my hair and not carry bag and just look very.
You know there's a place, okay, for example, there's a place of, if I'm going to a certain place, and I know they don't, for example, there's this video that trended of the guy when he went for his friend's wedding and he was told to remove his earring and when he made the earring, it's very, very annoying. You know, there's a time when you would cover up because where you're going to, even if you have the liberty, if you might offend their sensibility at times, it's just a way of being respectful. It doesn't mean you don't have your own rights. So it's important to have a balance. I think what we're saying here, if you notice from the video, the people that were raped, so we're not wearing shorts first.
Yeah.
They all had baggy trousers, baggy, you know, they were not wearing any provoking dress. Maybe one or two, which I'm
At least two,
you know,
at least two,
maybe one or
and that's
two.
it.
But it showed that the majority of people that were raped were not dressed in a provocative way. So that raises concerns about how the focus is on the person. So the discussion here is we take away responsibility from the perpetrator to the person that is the victim most of the time, having to defend herself. And that person is not looked at in any way, especially in the Nigerian context. So, well, the idea of saying what are you wearing is basically you don't take away responsibility from the person that committed the offense and make the burden on the victim to have to defend his or herself. Same thing, we train our boys just as we tell the girls, oh, dress decently. What should do? We should equally train other genders, whether male or female, and say, you know what? Even if the person is dressed a certain way, learn self-control. So let's make it both ways. Because when I was in university, I loved this, and the shorter the better. And really, I wasn't trying to attract anyone. I just liked the way it slapped on the back of the neck. I was a bad girl. I just loved me. Did that mean I was saying you should come after me? So, because really my intention was not about getting attention.
Yeah.
I just love the way you look. And right now, if you give me some ladies, I'm like, seriously? I want to become dead. So I'm just saying the times that people go through different phases. And that phase, does it give someone the right or the responsibility, the right to take advantage of the person? And that we need to have a sense of responsibility in society and build this narrative generally so that the focus is not always on the victim. How could the first question be, what did he wear? How come the first question is, why couldn't you hold this up? Or we say in the Nigerian
I think he was trying to find a
what was pushing you?
Someone has already done this. Isn't a murder and you're having suspects? There's no suspect. You look for a motive when you suspect someone did it and you're trying to figure out why they did it. But this is, you know someone did this. Like somebody's reporting a case. You're not looking for a motive when you have no suspects. Doesn't really make sense. And what are you wearing is such a broad motive. So it's like, so every man that she passed on the road is a potential suspect. That's so much of a broad motive. That's really bad policing in my opinion.
Once you shine the spotlight on an issue, the chances are you will start addressing that issue. You know?
You pretty much said what I wanted to say because, well, I'll add that it was very smart of you to put that documentary before you filmed. Because even I think I've been conditioned to believe that most rape victims were council leaders. That's, because when I hear every day you hear this thing, oh, she be raped, on social media. So if I just realized I subconsciously assumed she was council leader, but most of them were in jeans and t-shirts. Which is, it takes a lot.
Yes.
Dedication to get someone who's resisting.
You have enough time to rethink what you're about to do. Yeah.
So I have always assumed that probably some access of people were trying to, when parents are telling their kids or their words, what were you wearing? Probably give the guy ease of access, not necessarily provocation. Just it's easier to pick up this and this. I'll go for this. So I always assumed there was ease of access that was the issue, despite the fact that I would not agree for you to come to say I had so whatever the reason was, even drugs. I don't think rape is acceptable anywhere, even in Animal Kingdom. What I mean, so
So I think what I'm hearing is that whether we agree or not, in the Nigerian context and no other context, there's this subconscious culture, not only among men, among the society that thinks she was like scantily dressed,
Yes.
or she must have done something to trigger it. Yeah? And what this video, the first one and the second one does, is to show evidence and data that it had nothing to do with.
But why do we have to prove it? Is my question.
I think the thing for me is, so I assume that you're about 70 or over.
Yes.
You're independent of my parents. Pictures of my mother, I'm like, what? When you dress like this, you went clubbing, it's unbelievable, but she didn't get raped. So I think that every person's perspective or idea of what is decent is subjective to them. Okay? As I am like this, you may think I'm decent, another person will see me and say I'm indecently dressed. But the question for me is, there's this thing in law where you say, when they talk about provocation, so somebody comes and slaps you, and you shoot them with a gun. Your defense is commensurate to the attack that came to you. So the fact that I am scantily dressed or indecently dressed, is that enough to provoke you to rape me? Is the question. What I'm meting out as a corrective measure because somebody is scantily dressed, is it commensurate to the way they are dressed? Should you assault somebody? I mean, if the way a person is dressed is assaulting your senses, I think the immediate thing to do is to say, go and put on something, which is what our parents would say. But that shouldn't give you a right to now physically assault them.
Definitely.
And then, it's beyond the physical, it's mental, it's psychological, it's everything. The way a person is dressed, should that provoke you to rape them? Because you feel they have assaulted your senses of decency. So, what are you wearing is absolutely, it doesn't feature anywhere. And I understand your perspective because, like I said, they were my mothers and they think like that. But during your time, the women were more indecently dressed than we are now.
Yes, but.
And they were not getting raped.
And I'm grateful because I was terrified. I didn't want to share it with anyone. I thought, oh my gosh, but it has sparked conversations, and I'm sure it will spark further conversations, which I hope will happen. So just to say thank you, but also just to say consent. That's what I teach my boy when he's trying to play with his sister, and she's like, I'm not really in the mood, and I'm saying, Jody, no means no. So we keep saying that at home because, well, that's how I'm raising him, right? So, thank you for spending time with me. Thank you for feeding back on the film. I will try to get it across to everyone who came. And please share as widely as you can. Please keep the conversations going. And please help me finish those drinks and food because I guess most people just left without eating. And I appreciate you all. Thank you so much.